Hello, it is 521 week number 5. How is it week 5 and how is it already June 6th? Um if you've been in the classroom, hopefully you were done with that. Hopefully you are appropriately exhausted, possibly wearing your school clothing right now, as I am. It's our Hillbrook Walkathon. There it is. If you were wondering, like, why is he wearing a white t-shirt? That is why. Uh, this week we jump into SAMR model, Bloom's digital taxonomy, a handful of other things. And I got to thinking, as I was driving in this morning, was listening to some music. And inside of the music app on an iPhone, if it's full screen, you just tap that bottom right corner, like the little speech bubble with the quotes, and you get the song lyrics. Which is cool. I remember being in high school when Pearl Jam 10 came out. Starting to date myself. But I would say even up until like the last 5 years, and certainly, as my kids called it, in the late 1900s, the ability to get song lyrics was so small. So I remember I did not have an iPhone when I was in high school. None of us did. Song lyrics were not Googleable. That didn't exist. But some of the liner notes in that Pearl Jam album had some lyrics. And I remember taking, my dad had a home office, which was a very big deal back then. And he had a photocopier. And so I would take it and enlarge it. And the biggest you could get it was 144%. Make it really big. And shared, like, was actually able to read, like, some of Eddie Vedder's lyrics. And then later, I started playing guitar, and my goodness, that album 10 was playing that hours every day, just trying to get better at guitar, trying to learn those songs. And so inside of the guitar book, you have the musical notation, you have the guitar tab, and you also have the melody with lyrics. So my friend Chris, who's still a good friend, lived down the street at the time, and he was like, oh my gosh, I need to know what the lyrics are for Even Flow. And there are lyrics, not the Opera Man lyrics, the Eddie Vedder lyrics. And so I photocopied all those pages and gave it to him, and he was just like, this is amazing. And then this morning, which is not in the 1900s, this is 2022, new song, tapped on lyrics, and they were there. They were synced. As she was singing, they showed up. Just like, wow, this is something else. And so the reason I bring this up in week 5, looking at the SAMR model, is because I think a lot of the teaching we grew up in was around this really, like, low-level content, with kind of the assumption being you need to learn it because it's really hard to find it, which was fair. You may have seen the meme, which is a similar vein of, like, the teacher that said in the 80s and 90s, 2000s, you're not going to just have a calculator in your pocket. And you're like, really? I'm going to do this to illustrate a point here. Really? In fact, I do have a calculator in my pocket all the time. And so I think it begs the question, what are we doing with school? If it's not about, like, learning and memorizing the things, which was important when we were growing up, what is school about, and how might we better spend our time? And I think an interesting way to help us frame this is looking at the SAMR model. In the weekly notes, I give you a link to Sylvia Duckworth's tweet where she shared her SAMR model sketch note. Sylvia is such a great human, my goodness. What I love about it is that it gives you a great visual, but also I think the analogy really holds, looking at how you might spend the time at the beach using various types of technology. So we're going to go through it because I think there's an interesting parallel here. All right, so there's the no tech, just being like, I wish I was at the beach. The substitution in hers, in her sketch note, is looking at somebody like on a canoe, right? I think it could also just be like tech integration might be just walking along the beach as well. Augmentation, you're snorkeling, you're like, cool, like I'm underwater. This is pretty different than just walking along the beach. Modification, you're scuba diving, and you're like, wow, this is a different world. Wow. And then redefinition in her example is a little submarine where it's like this is not even the same with this technology. Like it has transformed what this project is, what our students are able to do. And I think a lot of people put a judgment there and have like a scale like, oh, this lesson plan's only substitution. And that word only is misguided. When I go to the beach, I don't know about you, I do not think, whew, I wish I was in a submarine today. I also don't think, I would love to go scuba diving. If only I had a scuba tank and knew how to use it. That's what I'd be doing with my time right now. I also don't think, let me go snorkeling. And out of all of those, actually, the one I would least likely do is let's go canoeing or kayaking. I usually just want to walk along the beach, and I am happy. But if you really want to get in and, like, be a part of the ocean, you can see how these play out in very different ways, right? So as you look at these, please do not judge and say, like, this lesson is only augmentation. Because sometimes you only need substitution. Sometimes you need no tech. And that's actually the best lesson plan. So this is not redefinition is the best or most important. This is not redefinition makes you the best teacher. But if your goal is to explore the ocean, at some point you want to get to that redefinition. You actually like, if you have access to it, my goodness, dude. Could you imagine, like, next week being like, all right, summer's here. We're hopping in a submarine. Dude, that would be memorable, right? That would be seriously memorable. And I think if you, this lesson and this analogy really holds up, that it's memorable. It's a whole new way of experiencing the ocean, but you're not going to do it all the time. I think all of that actually works with redefinition in the Salmon model and a submarine. But there are people who love to scuba dive. They'll scuba all the time, every weekend. So are you going to be a teacher that's going to be like modification all the time? Like, let's significantly redesign a bunch of lessons. I wonder what that looks like. I know that as a teacher, my memorable lessons have been redefinition. My favorite one, it was 9 years ago now. Last year I was in the classroom full time with my second graders. They just stunk at cardinal directions. I did the lesson, went through the textbook, gave them an assessment, and they were not picking up what I was putting down. And normally it's like, let's move on to the next thing. But I thought, let's do a reteach. And I jumped right into augmentation. Let's actually just take cardinal directions, northeast, south, and west. Whole idea of kind of mapping, a whole kind of lesson in social studies in second grade. And let's like write a rhyme, all right? Get something that's like a little bit different, a little bit catchy. Pretty quickly, you might see where I'm going with this. We jumped from augmentation to modification, opened up GarageBand, we had our little rhyme. Let's put that to music. Let's go into our loops, the little loop-de-loop icon, drag some drums in. Raise your hand, let's vote on the right drums. Cool. What else do we want? Let's find a bass. What else? Electric guitar. All right, cool. Raise your hand if you want an electric guitar. We're now modification, right? Big time. We do that, and then we have our little rap. We need to make that singable. it's going to be a song, you have to sing it. So we did. And at this point, like, it really pivoted from modification to redefinition, because we ended up having an entire song about never eat soggy waffles. Way different from, here's a piece of paper, let's read a page in the textbook and take our assessment. Substitution might be like, let's watch a video about it, and then you learn it kind of through video instead of a textbook. Augmentation was, all right, let's come up with a little rhyme. Modification was, let's actually turn it into a song, or maybe adding some other instruments to it. And then redefinition was the song. And we actually took that a step further. We took that, and one kid asked, and the answer was, yes, of course. Can we make a music video? And so I did a similar thing around visual literacy, because visual literacy is literacy. Storyboarded what that entire video would look like. Talked about how to communicate ideas visually, because being able to communicate is a big part of being a good writer. And a lot of my second graders were struggling with writing down words, but they could communicate ideas. They could tell me what it looks like, actually, in some ways better than what it looked like on paper. So we storyboarded the whole thing, got classroom jobs, everybody had a job. And then we shot our video. We shot our music video. And I think with all of that moved pretty quickly to redefinition for those literacy lessons, because it looked nothing like, let's do our Houghton Mifflin floppy orange workbook for a week, for 2 weeks actually. It's like, take those, put those away. We got something new. You feeling it? Now, I share that one lesson I did a long time ago. Most lessons were just no tech, very little. I had a grant through the credit union, so I had a small TV and an Apple TV, so I could AirPlay, have my phone, be able to show examples, use it as a portable document camera, just using my camera app, or now, I would use the app Overviewer. There's a lot of possibilities. And you don't always want to make a music video with your second graders, but when you do, it's going to be memorable. The experience, the learning is going to be really sticky, and it's a different way to run a lesson. So, with that, let's talk about what's going on this coming week. Samurai model, love it. It's good stuff. You have some reading, continuing on with the Dell. You have chapters 10, 11, and 12. Didn't talk too much about Bloom's digital taxonomy, but Kathy Schrock, who is a fantastic human, has a great website, Kathy Schrock's Guide to Everything. Guide to everything. Looking at, she actually puts them together around Sammer and Blooms. I almost said Blooms. Anyone else play that game? I have that in Apple Arcade. It's a fun game. You have a self-paced e-lesson. E is for electronic. I would encourage you to start this week, finish next week, your in-service presentation. So just take a look at that, start to kind of get those gears turning. Definitely continue with your e-portfolio. You're talking about, what do we have this week? Sammer, Bloom's digital taxonomy, and then learning theories. So be sure and add all of those. And then 2 discussion boards. 1, connect with your lesson plan. You're going to share what your lesson plan is going to be, looking at through the lesson, through the filter of the Sammer model and Bloom's digital taxonomy. And what does that mean? We were like, what lesson plan? Your assignment is to take a current lesson plan, and then you're going to highlight, like literally highlight, do some color coding to make it easy for you to see and easy for me to read and grade, and identify where the Sammer model does fit, where it might fit. If you're doing this lesson again next year, where you could actually make it a bit more rethinking what's possible with the lesson plan. So that you have that. What else do you have? Discussion board 2, looking at being a facilitator of learning. So for both of those, 2 original posts, 2 replies to each, and that is all. Reach out as you have questions. Happy week.